Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we sift through the boring corporate jargon so you don't have to. Today we're diving into Immatics N.V, DView's latest 20th filing. And let me tell you, it's got a bit of everything, kind of like a corporate potluck, where some dishes are gourmet and others, well, let's just say you might want to steer clear. We'll decode their financial dance, dissect the risks they're sweating over, and see if this immunotherapy player is really living up to the hype. Prepare for a roller coaster of emotions as we uncover some restatements, a CFO's juggling act, and enough strategic collaborations to make your head spin. Alright, let's get right into it. Just kidding. There was no change in the registrant's certifying accountant. Let's move on to where things get spicy. First off, what is Immatics N.V anyway? They're a Dutch company, but their heart beats in Germany with a US office in Texas because, well, everything's bigger in Texas, including biopharmaceutical ambitions, it seems. They're in the business of T-cell receptor-based immunotherapies. Basically, trying to get your immune system to fight cancer in a smarter way. They're not selling any products yet, but they're burning cash like it's going out of style to make that happen. So there's definitely a risk they may never achieve or sustain profitability. Now let's dive into the numbers. For the year ended December 31, 2024, Immatics reported a net profit of 15.2 million, which is quite a turnaround compared to the 94.6 million loss from the previous year. Sounds great, right? But don't get too excited just yet, as we'll see. The restatement may paint a different picture. Revenue from collaboration agreements shot up to €15, a huge leap from 54 million in 2023. That sounds impressive. More deals, more cash, right? Not so fast. As a side note, none of that was from actually selling product. But before we move on to if they are building the tools to scale, it is important to see why the increased revenue did not cause increased cash flow from operations. For that, we must first see how much of the revenue was directly from actual payments made. The operations were negative, €28 million. More on that later, but first. So what's driving this apparent surge? Well, a big chunk comes from a 11-13 million payment from Moderna, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, it also comes from something less thrilling, terminations of deals with Genmab and BMS. When those deals ended, Immatics had to recognize all the remaining deferred revenue at once. It's like getting a bunch of IOUs cashed in at the same time, even though the work backing them hasn't been fully done. So in that sense, the increased revenue doesn't necessarily correlate to good news, as it doesn't mean an equivalent amount of money came through the door and increased long-term security. That can be worrisome, it's revenue now, but what about next year? Meanwhile, research and development costs increased quite a bit, from 118.7 million to 148.1 million. So they are spending more to develop the technologies they are touting. Personnel related costs also climbed significantly as well, from 42.6 million euros. Thanks to more people working on the team. This is because they completed a state-of-the-art facility for registration enabling trials. This is expected to bring a lot more regulatory scrutiny than ever before. Now let's talk about taxes, or rather avoiding them. As of the end of 2024, they are sitting on a sweet pile of German and US federal net operating loss carry forwards, totaling around 300 million euros, have limitations, and the taxman always gets his due eventually. And remember folks, if these trials don't also comply with US laws, it could spell disaster for our favorite companies. This is true to foreign and domestic trials. The government doesn't like being trifled with. The business has a reliance on third parties for just about everything. They are relying on the cybersecurity practices and policies adopted by such third parties, but their ability to monitor the cybersecurity practices of these third parties is limited. They may be subjected to a cyber attack without knowing what happens if a third party screws up. This, among other things, could result in a material disruption of their product development programs and significant monetary losses. Of course, there's an admission they face substantial competition, and if they fail to get or maintain new strategic collaborations, they or their partners may be unable to develop or commercialize their products. And because those pesky clinical trials that take so long, well, it's possible that they will be delayed or not ever be completed, which would lead to big issues. The manufacturing of the very specialized products is also at risk here. It would lead to the termination of or hold on a clinical trial. This process of getting FDA approval is not well paved here and may add to regulatory scrutiny and delays. The accelerated process of approval and its renewal is not guaranteed to be fast or approved at all. This may take longer than expected. Because there are also so many different organizations in play here and not enough regulatory guidelines issued, this can only cause more complexity as the product has to go through a spider web before it can be approved. As always, let's finish with the IRS. Turns out these loss carry forwards may not be used before their expiration. And that's a no-no if their cumulative change in ownership is more than 50% within a 3-year period. The IRS would then block the ability to use net operating loss carry forwards to offset taxable income could adversely affect their results of operations and financial condition. I will end with my favorite comment I found. If the FDA or counterparties are not happy, we can expect their facilities to close. If this happens, it might not only harm, but materially harm the business. And that's an accountant's way of saying they will struggle. Okay, that was fun. So what's the verdict on Immatics? Well, first off, it isn't a shell company, thank God. They clearly play in a very tough arena, dominated by giants, and while they had a profitable year on paper, so much of it comes down to clever corporate accounting rather than sustainable growth. To sum it up simply, there's a lot riding on their ability to secure those regulatory approvals, keep those third-party relationships smooth, and not let any cyber gremlins into their systems. But you know me, I'm all about real-world scenarios, and based on this report, here are the following questions that come into my head. So, 1, can they turn their amazing tech into actual treatments? Or will it just be another flash in the pan in the biotech world? It seems a lot more promises are being made than revenues reported off year 2. And who's really calling the shots here? I mean, between their major shareholders having board seats and ties to other companies, are they truly dependent? So there you have it. As for if I'd invest, I have to say that these seem like very long odds considering the information at hand. That's all for today's Corporate Decoder. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe for more financial deep divers. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and remember, not all that glitters is gold.